3 lifelong friends, 6 trusty balls, and endless NFL takes. Welcome to 3 Guys, 6 Balls NFL Podcast.
Welcome to episode 68 of 3 Guys, 6 Balls NFL Podcast. I'm your host, Joel, and I'm here with my 2 co-hosts, Will and Avery. Will, we missed you last week. It's good to have you back.
Yeah.
How was your week off?
Well, I don't even know what I did last week. Oh, I went to California and back and did so many other things. And my son has graduated kindergarten now. So
I can't believe you didn't come to visit me when you were in the same state as me.
I was in the same state, but California is massive. I was actually looked it up. I was nowhere near you. Not even a little bit near you.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
I was in the San Jose area.
Yeah, that's nowhere even close.
Nowhere near you. Oh, how far is this? Too far to even consider.
It is very far. What's it, like 5-6 hours? Maybe more than that.
Something like that, yeah.
That's that really nice area, right? San Jose?
No, it's
near
California,
like
of course not.
Monterey and Palo
No, it's
Alto
really
and stuff.
expensive, but nice is relative.
Sorry, yeah, that is what I meant. Expensive, yes. Yes. Not to be confused with nice.
All right, well, it's good to have you back on the show with us, Will. And since we didn't do this last week and we're recording on Father's Day, I just wanted to say happy Father's Day to all the dads out there, including Avery, he just got married, so he's going to be a father here in about probably 9 months. So happy Father's Day to Will, and happy future Father's Day to Avery.
Thank you. Happy Father's Day to you. And to our own fathers, Dwayne, I know you're listening. My dad will never hear this, but happy Father's Day anyway.
Mine won't either, so yeah.
Carl, happy Father's
Day, Dad.
And, our fans and our dads, Zach, happy Father's Day to you. Joey, Case, happy Father's Day to you. Kirk isn't even 20 yet, so he doesn't count. Oh, no, he's about to be 21. He does count, but not a dad.
Garrett and Gavin.
Much it. Oh,
you guys better not be dads anytime soon.
Hey, you actually remembered his name this time.
I did. I remembered it previous. As soon as we started talking about people, I'm like, what are their names? Garrett, Gavin.
All right, so before we get into our topics for the day, I want you guys to do something for me. Can you guys pronounce the name of the NFL team from Jacksonville?
Jaguars.
Well, depends on how high up my pinky wants to be in the air while I'm sipping my Moscato. But being a basic white boy from the West Coast, it's the Jaguars.
Okay, so the reason I ask is because last week I put out a social media post about the Jags with Avery talking about how he thinks they're going to take a step back this year. And rather than being upset that he said they would take a step back, they were upset at the way he pronounced the word Jaguars. And they were upset because he said it Jaguars. And it's kind of like how everyone thinks that Oregon is pronounced Oregon. And so if you're from Oregon, you know that it's not pronounced like that. But if you're not from Oregon, you pronounce it differently. And I kind of understand where these Jaguars fans are coming from because it's always bothered me, like on the old NCAA football games when the Ducks would be announced as the Oregon Ducks. Oh. So I kind of get where they're coming from, but apparently it's not Jaguars. If you say Jaguars, you're an idiot.
Jaguars. It's Jaguars. You have to pronounce the U. I guess if I was actually saying it, I'm not just slurring all of my words. I would say more like, not to try to pronounce it right, but I would say like almost wires and wars, but somewhere in the middle there. So not Jaguars, Jaguars, Jaguars. If that's how I
probably
pronounce it.
Honestly, that last one was spot on.
Okay, that's how I would say it. I'm sure there is a different way. I've heard it say Jaguar. You know, the friggin' car company and stuff, and I'm like,
that snooty guy in the car commercial, Jaguar. Yes. Like, dude, Jaguar. Get out of here.
Yeah,
but you can't go Jacksonville Jaguar. That just doesn't. They don't fit. Those are two opposite ends of the. I don't want to say poverty line because that's not true, but opposite ends of like the whole spectrum of the English language. You don't go to Jacksonville for proper English. That's the whole American South. They have Creole, and now that's Louisiana, I understand. But they have all other sorts of languages down there. Avery, you lived down there for years. You know, it's just different. You moved back to the West Coast, kind of. We just speak differently, so you just kind of have to accept it. Just like we have to do with people saying Oregon. You just have to. Oregon. That's not right, but you're dumb, and I don't care.
Jeez, I thought. See, that's interesting that I didn't realize there were 2 things that people online were upset at me about from this past week. There was some Raiders crap.
They did not like.
I didn't even look it up. I was meaning to, but I never got around to it.
You should go watch it because people definitely think you're an idiot for saying that about Fernando Mendoza.
What exactly did I say again? That I didn't think he was going to be anything special?
All
That,
you
like,
said was you're not sold on him. That's all you said.
Okay, that checks. Yeah, all right. I'll
How
take that.
can you be sold on him? He hasn't done anything yet.
Hasn't done anything yet.
To a lot of the people's point, they did bring that up. It's like, well, of course you're not going to be sold on him. He hasn't even played a snap. So,
Yeah.
but I was like, well, that's kind of the point of scouting people, is to be sold on them or not to be sold on them. So
I'm not any more sold on him than any other quarterback that was drafted to the Raiders or the Jets in the past 10 years. That's like a better way of saying
Yeah.
it. Like someone break the mold and then I'll start being a little optimistic.
Let me put it this way. I feel better about Fernando Mendoza on the Raiders than I did about Josh Allen on the Bills when the Bills first drafted him. That was a terrible pick when the Bills first drafted him. Like, are you kidding me? This guy's barely okay at quarterback. And
Out
now
of
look at him.
Wyoming. Yeah.
Yeah, out
Yeah.
of Wyoming. This guy sucks. He can't complete
with
a
a
pass.
terrible,
He's
terrible
yeah.
completion percentage.
He was so bad, and the Bills went, hold my beer, watch us cook, and now he's the number one best player in the league. Well, maybe not number one, but I think in the ESPN Top 100, he was number
Wait,
one.
Will, I thought you had Matthew Stafford as your top quarterback because he won
Well, hold
MVP.
If he could
Sure,
switch
he is.
right now, no shame, he would.
NFL Top 100 that players voted for, was he not number one?
Oh, who was it last
Was
year?
it
I know it was
this year?
Barkley the year before. Either way, he's somebody's number one.
He's a lot of people's number one.
3 weeks into the league, 3 weeks into the season, last season, just this past year, he was everyone's number one. I
Yeah,
remember how
but-
everyone was talking about him.
But also, look how long it took him to get there. He was bad the first couple of years. People wanted him out of Buffalo, and Buffalo fans will say, no, we didn't. That's not true. We always loved him. He's always been our guy, because it's easy to rewrite that kind of history. But he was bad early on in his career, and now he's spectacular. So I feel better about Fernando Mendoza now than I did in 2017 or whenever Josh out. He had not been in the league 10 years. 19 when he was drafted. When was he
I
drafted?
want to
How old am I?
think it was 18.
Oh, cool. I
Same
just
year as
expected 2
Baker
years.
Mayfield. Same year as Baker Mayfield, so it was 18.
18 sounds right.
It was 18, yes. But yeah, so there's that. I don't know if it's worth
All right.
anything, but there's that.
All right, well, to give you guys the rundown of today's episode, we're going to talk about Brendan Sorsby and him entering the NFL Supplemental Draft. And then after that, we're going to talk more about which non-playoff teams from last year could make the playoffs in 2026. Although this time we're getting a little bit more specific and we're only looking at teams who picked in the top 10 of the 2026 NFL Draft. And then if we have time at the end, we'll talk about which NFL wide receivers have the best chance to break the single season receiving yards record set by Calvin Johnson, because he made some recent comments on that. So we'll start with the Brendan Sorsby situation. And for this, we're going to share some thoughts on what happened with the situation in general. Then we'll talk about the NFL Supplemental Draft and how that works. We'll talk about which teams we think could target Brendan Sorsby, and then we'll break down some of his strengths and weaknesses as a player. So before we get into the Supplemental Draft and how that works, do either of you guys have any thoughts you wanted to share just on the Brendan Sorsby situation, just in general?
Okay, before you start, Avery. Now, I totally watched the episode that I was not a part of. Absolutely watched every second of it.
For sure.
But just as a refresher for those of us, it's been a long time. You guys didn't talk about this last week?
We did not talk about this last week.
All right, Avery, go on. Go ahead.
I know, it's surprising. Yeah, we had other things. I think out of the three of us, I think it's safe to assume that I watch the most college football, probably by a margin. The entire thing, I'm glad it got sorted out. I'm glad Texas Tech stepped in and just kind of said, all right, yeah, we're not doing this. Just to briefly recap, came out of Cincinnati, did great there, transferred to Texas Tech, who's been a up-and-coming powerhouse team, got steamrolled by Oregon, but we won't hold it against them. And transfers there. Turns out he's been a gambling addict for a little while, bet on games that he's played in, other football games, which is a hard red line for the NCAA and frankly, any athletic association that isn't the WWE. Any league that values integrity of the game, meaning people can trust that the games aren't fixed, like you cannot let this slide. And so whenever there's any case like this, it's just immediate. You're gone. You're out of here. So anyway, some local judge in where is he, in El Paso? Not where's this? Not Waco, it's El Paso? Where is it? Lubbock, Texas. That's what I'm thinking of. Baylor. Some local judge there deemed that he was no, this will hurt his ability to be a college football player. It's like, yeah, no shit. Sorry, Dad. And so anyway, total bullcrap. Everyone was up in arms. Rightfully so. It's like, you can't let this slide. This sets a horrible precedent. And I think Texas Tech at that point was like, okay, I think everyone on their schedule was like basically planning on just boycotting and just not playing them. And I think that's how it should have been. So Texas Tech is like, all right, we're not doing this. He's not eligible. He's not playing. So Sorsby is entering the supplemental, or is planning on entering the supplemental draft. I think he's a pretty good quarterback. Don't
share your scouting report yet. Don't share your scouting report yet.
Okay.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Will, do you have any just thoughts in general just on the situation?
Yeah, I feel a bit more strong than Avery, honestly. He was a part of placing more than 2,900 wagers, totaling more than $90,000. This isn't a little gambling problem. This is a huge deal. He did it when he was a quarterback at Indiana, which everybody wants to forget about. He did it when he was a quarterback at Cincinnati, which people love to kind of forget about, because he's now being touted as, and this is crazy to me, as Brendan Sorsby from Texas Tech, which is wild, because he never played for Texas Tech. He's not a Texas Tech quarterback. He's from Cincinnati. And I think it's, like you said, Avery, he got suspended from the NCAA because coaches and other players have been suspended for life for way worse than this, or way less than this, excuse me. That they like one wager gets somebody banned for life. He did 2,900 bets over $90,000. He got like a 2-game suspension out of it. Oh, well, it'll be okay. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Just take your suspension and move on. And then he filed an injunction in Texas, like you said, Avery. And I think it was a court of judges ruled on this. Every single one of them, Texas Tech alumni. Every single one of the judges were Texas Tech alumni. And it's a huge conflict of interest, because I'm sure they're also donors and supporters of the school. And it's a huge conflict of interest. And then the local judges were allowed to just overrule the NCAA. That is another huge problem, that we're just allowing local authorities to just overrule the entire college sports, not just college football, but college sports conglomerate. And that's just, I don't think that can happen. We just can't allow a national conglomerate like the NCAA for all of the national college or collegiate sports to get overruled by local authorities. It was a Texas Circuit Court. Hold on, pause, wait for it. It's right here. A Texas District Court, excuse me. And so it is specific to Texas. They can rule on things in Texas. He never bet on anything Texas-wise. And so, in my opinion, this should have had to go back to Cincinnati. He should have had to appeal in Cincinnati. And the whole thing was handled so poorly from start to finish. So he didn't get a lifetime suspension. That's terrible. He was able to get it appealed and overruled. That's terrible. And then, due to outside pressure, basically peer pressure, is what made him say, okay, fine, I'll just declare for the supplemental draft, I won't play college football. If you guys are going to throw a fit about it, I guess I just won't play. It's just so crappy. It's just such a bad scenario that the NCAA found themselves in for every sport, because, like you said, Avery, if you're a coach or a player, you cannot bet on any sports at all. You just can't. It's like, I don't know if it's an unwritten rule or a real rule, but the connections and the web of people go so deep. Just because let's just say I coach at my local community college, okay? I then... Actually, let's use a real one. I referee for a local youth sports affiliate. There is possibility for me to go to a camp where actually I have attended conferences where NFL refs are presenting and are at. Okay, so I've been in the same scenario with professional and collegiate referees. It is so possible for me to talk to one of them or get inside information on one of them and say, hey, I know you like to do this. I want to place bets through you. And just because I am a youth level football referee, I now have ties into things I should not be having ties to, and I can't gamble on that either. That's a huge red flag. And it's even worse for the more popular you get, the more connections to your web you have. I just think this, again, to reiterate here, I think it was handled so poorly. I guess I'll leave this counter report for later, but I do not like any of this. I think it sets it leaves the door open for a bad precedent to get set moving forward.
Anything else to add, Avery?
No, I honestly, I completely agree with that.
I do too.
What I was, before I was about to jump into some scouting stuff, I was wondering how the NFL views this as something it's like, okay, this has not yet touched the NFL because Brendan Sorsby did not play in the NFL. Is this something that you can go into knowing, I mean, now that everyone knows his problems, can he go in there and will this continue to be an issue? You know, on one hand, he could just keep betting. The other hand is that egregious enough where you say, all right, no, you're done? Like, is this, because we know that, you can't be gambling. Does a 19-year-old know that? Does a 20-year-old know that? Especially with this new landscape, you got DraftKings, FanDuel everywhere blasting, every single ad while you're watching the games. I just wonder, is this something where even if the NFL allows him to come in, will that still fly? Or will GMs, owners just be like, nah, not for us. Maybe for someone else, but not for us. It's like, hey, do we care about this or do we not care about this? If it comes to some sort of, somebody found somebody saying some racist thing online from a while ago. It's like, okay, maybe they don't care about that. There's some that John Gruden stuff, unless there's political pressure that will affect an owner or the league's bottom line, in which case, yes, they will go in there and nip that in the bud real quick. So that's what I'm wondering. Rather than just being a moral police of just saying, what's right? No, this is bad. We can't allow this. I want to know what they actually care about, what they will actually act on. But anyway.
All right, so let's talk about the NFL Supplemental Draft real quick, and then we'll give our scouting reports for Brendan Sorsby. So for anyone not familiar with the Supplemental Draft, what it is it's a secondary draft that gets held by the league in the event of a player or players losing their college eligibility after the deadline to enter the regular NFL draft. And in order for a player to enter the supplemental draft, they have to apply for eligibility, and then the league has to approve it. So Brendan Sorsby has applied to enter the supplemental draft, and teams will be able to make an attempt to get him by bidding a future 2027 draft pick. So how that works is the NFL teams are sorted into 3 tiers. The first tier is made up of all the teams who had 6 or less wins the year before. The second tier is made up of teams who had 7 or more wins but missed the playoffs. And then the third tier is made up of all the teams who made the playoffs. And then once those teams have been separated into their tiers, the supplemental draft order is then randomly selected within those tiers. So once the order is determined, teams can then bid a draft pick for the following year on a player such as Brendan Sorsby. So let's just say the Browns bid a second-round pick on Brendan Sorsby, and they are the highest bidders. They would then lose that pick in the 2027 draft. And if multiple teams bid a pick on Brendan Sorsby or any player, the team that bid a pick in either the highest round or has the highest pick in the same round as another team would then add Sorsby or whatever player they're bidding on to their roster. So that's how the supplemental draft works. But now let's do our scouting report for Sorsby, and then we'll talk about where we think he might end up, like which teams we think might go after him. So, Will, why don't you start us off? Give us some thoughts on Brendan Sorsby. And let's kind of do this just as a player, like his talent on the field, because we pretty much know what his off the field issue, we know what his off the field issue is, and we know that could be a problem. But let's just do our scouting report based off of what we see on film from Brendan Sorsby when he's on the field.
Sure, you're going to pull up the image?
Oh, yeah. Let me share that real quick.
While he's doing that, he's not pulled up. The easy solution here is that Sorsby's just going to have to continue to bet on college while he's in the pros. Because as a pro, you just can't bet on NFL games. You can bet on other sports, but you can't do it on the team site or on the team facility or the facility site or while you're traveling with your team. So you can still gamble as an NFL player, just not on the NFL, which makes a lot of sense. So there's not whatever, right? Like this is going to get swept under the rug because it's not going to matter. But as a quarterback, as a collegiate quarterback, I really appreciate you picking a Cincinnati photo here and not one of the AI generated images for him at Texas Tech because they just
Well,
did you
see what?
Yeah,
I
they
put
kind of,
with
but
the-
not really. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Really, it should say Indiana / Cincinnati because he started his career at Indiana, didn't do much there, was fine but not good. Then Cignetti came in and he left. So Sorsby left. I don't think there was any overlap with the two of them, and so
There was a couple
I-
months, but no real playtime.
Sure. Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm not a big Sorsby fan, unlike Avery said he was. I think he's fine. I think he's got good measurables at 6'3", 235. He's a big body, but he's not he's not Justin Herbert 6'6", but he's also not Kyler Murray 4'2". So he sits right in the middle there. I like the way he throws the ball. I just wish he threw it more accurately. But accuracy, as we've seen, we already talked about it. Accuracy is a thing you can teach. Look at Josh Allen. Look at Lamar Jackson. Accuracy is a thing you can teach. And so you get a guy who can come in there and zip the ball down the field and can read a defense, which obviously there's going to be growing pains. But I think Sorsby could okay at it, if not good. My biggest problem with him, and this is going to be consistent in NFL, is that in college he was just a better athlete than everybody else. He threw the ball and he could also run the ball really well. And so he was just a better athlete. In the NFL, that's just not going to be the case because your defensive tackles and your defensive linemen are going to be able to chase him down. Because the consistent athletic ability of the average player in the NFL is so much higher than the high level of athleticism from the college players, especially when you're playing for Cincinnati, because you don't play the top talents all the time. I understand they're in the Big 12, but Big 12 has really high ceiling and a really, really low floor. So I like what he does. I think he escapes the pocket too quick. He's got time to throw it, but he wants to just run it and get whatever he can. His accuracy outside the numbers needs to improve, especially in the NFL, because the throwing windows are even tighter. What's open in college is wide open in the NFL, and what's not open in college is open in the NFL. And so he's going to have to get way better on throwing the ball outside the numbers, and he's going to have to be more consistent against good defenses. When he played Utah, and he went 11 for 33 with one score. But yet he played Northwestern State, and he went 15 for 15 with 5 scores, and it was just an amazing game. So you can't just be good against the Jets and the Browns. Actually, the Browns, I'm maybe going to say, are bad this year. You can't just be good against the bad teams. You have to be good against everybody. So I just don't think he's ready for the NFL. I think another year of college would have helped. He just doesn't have the opportunity now.
For the most part, I agree. I think he is better than most of the quarterbacks that were drafted. Whether it's just his size, just confidence, I think a team could really use him. Whereas I feel like most of the quarterbacks drafted won't be used very well. I don't think that he should be a first-round supplemental pick, but I am very interested to see what happens. I think he will go second round, meaning that I think a team will give up a second-round pick to take this guy. And I don't think it's going to be the Jets. I think the Jets could definitely use him, but I could see different, like just a completely different team just taking a chance on this guy. Basically seeing that next year, whatever, you got Arch Manning, you got Dante Moore, you got a few other guys, that could go, first round. If you can nab this guy in the second round right now, knowing that, if you're a decent team that's not going to be around early in the first round to grab a quarterback, this might be your chance to get somebody. So whether it's the Colts, maybe even the Cowboys, sneaking in to just grab a guy like this, just thinking like, hey, it fell into our laps. We don't expect to be able to get a quality quarterback next season. We can just take a chance on him. I could see that happening. But I definitely think that him, I mean, I don't know who else is even going to be in this supplemental draft. I think it's really just for him. I'm very curious to see how this goes, but I do think it'll be an unexpected team that basically, just when I say unexpected, I mean not the Jets. I think the Jets will try to get him, but I think someone else will outbid. But I do think he could do well. He's got a little bit of that I want to say like a little bit of Baker Mayfield in there, just this kind of like ability to make things happen. I almost kind of wish that level of confidence was inside of Dante Moore.
Yeah.
Just this ability to just make things happen sometimes, and I feel like Moore has just been spoiled with really great weapons around him and hasn't really had a chance to learn what to do when just shit hits the fan. Sorry, Dad. And so I think he could make a lot of noise. But then again, we'll see.
So to go back to something that Will said he would have benefited from going back to school for another year, and I completely agree with that. I think Brendan Sorsby was smart to try and go back to school and to go to Texas Tech. Unfortunately, he was really dumb and made a bad decision, so he didn't get to go back to school for another year and go to Texas Tech. But just from a talent standpoint, I think every NFL team should take a chance on Brendan Sorsby. Now, what each team bids to get him would obviously vary because some teams need him more than others, but I think every team should at least take a chance on him. And the reason why is because when I watch Brendan Sorsby on tape, I feel like he has all the tools to become a franchise quarterback, but he just needs someone to help him put it all together. There are times when I see flashes of Josh Allen as a runner. He's a constant threat to pick up a first down or break a big run on every play, and he can make you miss or he can just run you over. There were times when I saw flashes of Patrick Mahomes in the way that he changes arm angles and throws from different platforms. But there are also times when I watch his tape and say, that's just not going to work in the NFL. He's not consistent with his ball placement. I saw too many throws that forced receivers to adjust. Screen passes were thrown high. Deep balls were left short. There were just too many misses, and his off-target rate last year was really high, like significantly higher than Fernando Mendoza, Carson Beck, or some of the other quarterbacks who have been drafted in the past 2 years. There's a lot about Brendan Sorsby's game that needs to be cleaned up, and combined with the off-the-field stuff, there's a real risk here, but there's also enough talent to make you believe that this guy could become an NFL star. Some teams might throw a second-round pick at him, and some might throw a fourth or a fifth at him, but I think the potential is high enough that every team should at least take a shot and see if they can land this guy. Will, you look like you disagree.
Oh, no. Actually, I've been sitting here the whole time while you guys are talking, active listening for sure. But also, considering which teams I like him to go to and which teams I want to see him at, but with that, which teams are going to be in the market for a quarterback in the next couple of years. And the one that kept coming to my mind, because heaven forbid they're the ones saying it, is the Eagles. He plays a lot like Jalen Hurts with the bigger style body, wants to run the football, can throw it inaccurately, but also accurately. There's a lot of there's a lot of Jalen Hurts there, and it's crazy to say that this quarterback has taken him to the Super Bowl twice and won one of them. How the Eagles themselves are coming out and saying that this is a let's see year. Well, Eagles, let's see. Get a guy in house. Andy Dalton's not the future. Tanner McKee, whatever that guy's name is. Hey, he's not your future. You don't have a future quarterback. You don't. And like you said, you're not going to get one in the next draft. This next draft is quarterback loaded, allegedly. We'll see. But they're not going to get one. And so you might as well. Honestly, I could see them bidding a first-round pick for Sorsby. I could see them taking their next year because he is better than anything they're going to get with their first-round pick for for future needs, like in the next few years. I could see that happening. You said the Cowboys, Avery, and I love that too. Because as much as Dallas loves Dak Prescott, inside the organization, the fans, from what I've heard, are each individual is split 60-40. 40% we love Dak, 60% he's not the guy. He won't get us there. When he's on, but when he's not on, that whole team suffers. And so I could see Dallas. I don't think Dallas would do a first-round pick, but I could see Dallas putting a decent bid in for him. But at the same time, Jerry doesn't love off-the-field issues and off-the-field problems, so possibly not there too.
Yes, he does.
Well, he loves them with himself. He doesn't love them.
If it
He doesn't
creates
want to deal
attention
with it.
around himself, he loves it. It doesn't matter what it
Well,
is.
Yeah, you're right, actually. Another team I could see going in high for him, or I've got two of them here, is the Falcons, because they have two clear, not great quarterbacks in there. Now, maybe they love Tua. Tua went to Atlanta, right?
Yes.
Yeah, see, that was right the first time. Maybe they love Tua, and it's just not making its way to my social media platforms or my whatever that I'm looking into. But Michael Penix, we saw him last year, not for very long, but we saw him last year. He's going to take a lot to develop, and teams don't want to wait. When you have a good roster like the Falcons, they don't want to wait for development. They want me to win right now. And the other team I thought of is a team that drafted a quarterback this year is the Cardinals. Why not bring two guys in like the Browns did last year? Look, we're not trying to be the Browns. Obviously, nobody wants to be the Browns. But the Browns brought in two guys last year and made them compete with each other. Get two guys in this year and put Sorsby up against Carson Beck and have them fight it out, physically probably, and see who comes out on top and see what happens. I hope for Sorsby's sake he goes to the Eagles or a good team so he can develop. But, we'll see.
To go back to the Dallas Cowboys real quick, what Jerry is probably going to end up doing, because this just feels like a Jerry move, it feels like something he would do, is he would probably trade George Pickens, get a first-round pick, and use that first-round pick to get Brendan Sorsby. That just feels like something that Jerry Jones would
next
do.
year? Oh, gosh. Yeah.
It probably won't happen, but it just feels like the most Jerry Jones thing ever to do that.
Yeah.
But my other team, Avery mentioned this team already, but I think there's a strong chance that the Jets take a chance on Brendan Sorsby because they have enough draft capital to take that risk. They already have 3 first-round picks in 2027. Now, I don't think they should or would spend a first-round pick on him, but if they wanted to spend a second-round pick on Brendan Sorsby, I think that would be worth the risk because you would still have 3 first-round picks to work with in 2027. And if you wanted to get a second-round pick back in 2027, they could easily do that by trading back in the first round of the 2027 draft. It's also a good spot for Sorsby to be because he wouldn't have to start right away. So he'd actually have the chance to sit and learn the NFL game. And hopefully, if he ends up there, the Jets would actually let him sit and learn for at least a year. And I think the weapons that the Jets have are really good pieces for Sorsby to have around him. Garrett Wilson, Omar Cooper Jr., Kenyon Sadiq, Breece Hall. I think that's a really good supporting cast for a guy like Sorsby when he would eventually get on the field. But I think the Steelers could be a sneaky team to take a shot on Brendan Sorsby. And the reason why is because the Steelers have just been in this spot for so long where they're either in the playoffs or they're right on the edge of the playoffs. And so they're never bad enough to have the opportunity to draft one of the top quarterback prospects, unless it's Jackson Dart, who they decided to pass on anyway. And so this might be the Steelers' best chance to draft a quarterback with this much upside because they don't have to be in a position to use a first-round pick on him. Now, it really depends on what other teams in the league are going to bid to get him. But if I were the Steelers, I'd throw at least the third rounder at him and see if you can land him. Because with as much upside as Sorsby has on the field, I think they should just take that chance. And they might not get him, but it's at least worth a shot. And it's also a spot where he doesn't have to start right away. He'd have at least a year to sit and learn, and he'd have a decent amount of competition for the starting job after Aaron Rodgers retires. So I think that competition level would only help him to get better. And I don't think he ends up with the Steelers, but I wouldn't be surprised to find out that they at least submitted a bid for him.
I've got one more here, and this is going to get all the hate everywhere. How about the Cincinnati Bengals? It is obvious that Joe Burrow, this is the most roller coaster. To go back to what Avery said months ago, it's like a Real Housewives scenario where it's up and it's down and it's up. And I hate football here. I love it here. This is great. No, I hate it here. It is consistent every single year that he loves it and then they start doing bad and he hates it. And it's only so long that teams going to put up with that attitude. It's the same thing you saw with the Eagles and A.J. Brown, where you may be a great player, great athlete, but if you're a locker room problem, they have to get you out, even if you're the quarterback. And there's already talk of, we'll see what happens, but there's already talk of him going to the Rams. Matthew Stafford retires, he traded to L.A., and then you have nothing in Cincinnati. So take your moment right now to get a guy in a year under Joe Burrow. Again, a guy with similar play style. Now, Sorsby runs more than Burrow does. Burrow has the ability. And so get a guy in who can learn under one of the NFL's better quarterbacks, and then he can take over when it's time.
To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised to hear any team end up with Brendan Sorsby. Like, you could say any team, and I wouldn't be surprised that he's going to that team, honestly. Because, like Avery mentioned before, we
Except
don't
the
know.
Rams. Except
Yeah,
the
if he goes-
Rams.
if
If he
he
goes
goes
to
to
the
the Rams, I'm
Rams,
gonna
I'll
get
be
a bit
like,
upset.
what?
I'm going to be a bit upset if he goes to the Rams.
I mean, I still wouldn't be surprised because the reason is like Avery mentioned before, we just don't know how teams are going to view this situation, right? We don't
Right.
know what teams are thinking. And so maybe 31 teams are like, this guy, we're not taking a chance on him because he did that. There's just no way we're taking a chance on this guy because we don't know if he's going to do it again. And we don't want to have to deal with that if he does do it again. But maybe there's one team that says, we'll take a chance on him. We'll throw a 6th round pick at him. And he ends
Actually,
up with
that
the
is-
Chiefs.
That is
Or
a
he
good
ends
point.
up with the Bills, or he ends up with the Rams. Somebody could bid very, very low on Brendan Sorsby and end up with Brendan Sorsby because the 31 other teams didn't bid anything because they don't want to deal with this guy.
Yeah, the Rams did say F them picks, so they clearly they're looking to burn their money.
Consistently, that keeps coming up. Every time they make any move.
F them picks.
All right, well, Avery, you got to go soon, right? In like 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to, unless you guys have anything else to say about Brendan Sorsby.
The only thing I can think of is I really hope this doesn't turn into a Johnny Manziel scenario where he had problems in college, he runs away to the NFL, he brings his problems with him, and then he just gets ushered out of the league because he can't get out of his own way. And I use Johnny Manziel, not Aaron Hernandez, for a reason. But still, same scenario here, where you have to leave your past life behind and you have to start treating this as your job, not your hobby, or not something you're just doing because. This, even in college, the fun goes away when you hit college. Not goes away, but it's more of a business. This is what you're doing for your job now. And so I hope that I'm sure everyone in his camp is telling him stuff like this. Hey, you need to straighten up. You need to get this figured out. This is your livelihood you're messing with. And so I just hope that we don't see another Johnny Manziel scenario where he just is this flashy, cool guy who makes his own choices and then his own choices are his own downfall.
All right, so before Avery has to leave, let's move on and we'll talk about some non-playoff teams from last year who could make it in 2026. And again, this time we're only picking from the teams that had a top 10 pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, meaning we only have 9 teams to choose from, which are the Raiders, Jets, Cardinals, Titans, the Giants, who had 2 picks in the top 10, the Chiefs, Commanders, Saints, and Browns. And the reason I wanted to talk about just the teams who picked in the top 10 is because every year since 2003, at least one team with a top 10 pick in the NFL Draft ended up making the playoffs that same year. And so I want to know if that trend continues in 2026, which team you guys think it will be. And so, Avery, I want to start with you because the easy answer is the Chiefs, but you notably don't think the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs again. So which team that made a top 10 pick in the 2026 NFL Draft will make the playoffs this year?
Oh, I want to say it's either the Giants or the Commanders, but I haven't decided who yet. If the Commanders can stay healthy, honestly, if either team can stay healthy, I think they've got a pretty good shot. I know that anyone else asks this question and looks at who selected in the top 10
Chiefs.
would have a pretty easy time
Chiefs.
answering this.
Every
But
time.
I'm sticking to my guns. They ain't making the playoffs. Maybe I honestly, I think this might even just be the first year that no team makes it. But if a team did, it'd be someone out of the NFC East. That's what I'm thinking.
So I had the Commanders as my honorable mention. We saw what Jaden Daniels could do in his rookie year in 2024. Unfortunately, he was hurt for most of the year last year. But when Jaden Daniels is on the field, he is dangerous. And we saw in his rookie year that Jaden Daniels doesn't need a loaded wide receiver room to make the Commanders' offense scary. In 2024, Terry McLaurin did have over 1,000 yards, but his other weapons weren't anything special. Yet Jaden Daniels made play after play after play. So going into this year, a question surrounding the Commanders' offense is who steps up outside of Terry McLaurin. But as long as Jaden Daniels is healthy, I don't think the Commanders necessarily need anyone to be an 800 or 900-yard receiver. I think the success of the Commanders really relies on 2 things this year, the health of Jaden Daniels and the quality of their defense. In 2024, when Jaden Daniels was healthy, their defense was just a middle-of-the-pack defense, and they won 12 games. Unfortunately, they did take a step back last year, but so did that entire team. So this year they have several new starters on defense. They got younger and faster defensively, and they have a new defensive coordinator. So there are some unknowns with this defense, but if they can just get back to being a middle of the pack defense and Jaden Daniels is healthy the entire year, I think the Commanders have a real chance to get back into the playoffs. Will, what about you? Who do you have?
You're not going to like this.
Is it the Saints?
I've
The
got
Cardinals.
the Saints, yeah.
The Saints were actually my first one.
Yeah, I've got the Saints, and the problem is that the three of us sitting here in front of these microphones know only one team from the NFC South is getting into the playoffs, right? There is a low probability that an NFC South team is making a wild card game. That's just, well, a wild card spot. They'll be in a wild card game, but a wild card spot.
Well, I mean, if only one is making the wild card game, the Buccaneers are going to be the 1 seed, so they get the bye. So,
Yep. Yep.
Right, Avery?
That's it.
Look,
That's exactly it.
I think that just like the Pac-12 of old and the Pac-10 of old, especially the BCS system, the NFC South beats the shit out of each other. Sorry, Dwayne. And so you saw it, right? You had 3 8-8 or 9-8 teams or 8-9 teams, whatever it was.
8-9.
You had 3 teams that were like right there. It all came down to, well, you beat this guy on this date, and this mom had their shoe untied, so they're the winner. And it was like multi-layered of like tiebreaker things you had to go down. And so at any moment, any of these teams can do something. And unfortunately, if it was all effort, then Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers would be the number 1 seed every single year, because that dude puts out the most effort out of anybody in the NFL. But your effort only gets you so far, and unfortunately, no matter how much Joel has consistently loved Reuben Bain, I just think that their first-round pick is not going to help them the way that Jordan Tyson may for the... And I don't love Jordan Tyson. If he can, as we said before, if he can stay healthy, he's a weapon. He's just not consistently healthy. And so I just think the Saints, the way Tyler Shuck, who notable hater of Tyler Shuck, couldn't even start for Oregon. Like sat in front of this specific microphone and crapped all over that guy the entire offseason last year. But hey, when he was put in, he showed up. If he plays like he did to end last year, that Saints team's going to be good. Cam Jordan's back for another year to lead that team. Now his role, I don't think he'll be on the field as much, but as a defensive leader, he'll get the boys moving. And I think the Saints are going to be dangerous.
So I went with the Saints as well. Unfortunately for me and Avery, I really like what the Saints have done to build their team this year. When the Saints drafted Tyler Shuck 40th overall last year, everyone was saying, what the Shuck are the Saints doing? Like, we said that, right? This guy's terrible. They wasted a pick, but Shuck was actually pretty good as a rookie. And this year, the Saints put more weapons around Shuck to help him continue taking steps forward. They drafted Jordan Tyson to pair with Chris Olave, and sure, he has injury concerns, but like Will said, when Jordan Tyson was on the field in college, he dominated. They also brought in Travis Etienne or HN. I don't know which one to say anymore, but they brought him in, and I really like what the Saints have done to build their offensive line. The Saints are building around Tyler Shuck, and I really like the pieces that they put around him. Pair that with the Saints having the second easiest schedule and then playing in the NFC South, the third worst division, and the Saints have a real shot this year. So I also went with the Saints. I think there's still a chance that they're bad, but there's also a chance that they're actually pretty good.
I love how none of us picked the Chiefs.
The answer is probably the Chiefs, but I'm sticking with the
Probably
Saints.
it is, honestly.
I
just didn't want to pick the Chiefs just because I feel like I thought Will was going to say them for sure. I thought
It's
somebody.
You guys know I'm right.
I'm
You guys
too big of
know
an
I'm right.
idiot to pick the Chiefs.
They're not making it. They're not making it.
I mean, their best player just ran out of jail. So
Brand?
I don't know.
you?
Did
you not see that video?
No.
Of Rasheed Rice?
He got
He ran
released.
out?
Wait. Also,
he got released.
Rasheed Rice is their best player?
Well, best receiver.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. He
I'm
got
just
re-
imagining like straight up like he escaped from prison and we saw him
No.
juke out guards and stuff. Like he ran out.
No,
was
he
sweet.
got released and had his hood up, and he was walking backwards toward the paparazzi. The one guy that was there with a microphone. And then when he got close to the door, he just turned and ran, which I don't know. Fortunately have never had to do any time at all in a jail or juvenile facility or prison or whatever. I don't think running around the grounds there is going to be a good move for anybody. But hey, you know what? Whatever. He was released. He was a free man. He turned and just ran out of the building and then ran into a car that was parked there and they just drove away. This is not how I would act around a prison or jail or whatever.
It's like, dude, we all know it's you. We all know it's you.
Right. But he was just avoiding answering questions and anything like that. But
I've seen so many Chiefs fans like on social media posts and comments like, oh yeah, look at his knee. Like his knee looks so good when he was running away. Like he's going to be so good this year.
I hope that they're satirical. That's what I hope. People aren't like, oh yeah, actually, he does look good. You're right.
His form looked incredible there.
Yeah.
If only we could put some paparazzi in the backfield on some of these opposing teams.
All right, Avery, do you got to get out of here?
I do.
Okay. Well, we'll see you next time then.
All right. I'll see you guys.
For those listening, Avery gave us he tickled some balls for us. All right, so we've got a little bit of time left, so let's talk about Calvin Johnson's statement on who he thinks could break his single-season receiving record. So Calvin Johnson said he sees Puka Nacua as the top threat to break his single-season receiving yards record. Do you think Puka Nacua is the most likely receiver to break it, or is it someone else?
I think, yes, he is, right? I feel like the Rams are set up as much to where you can't overcommit your defense to Puka Nacua because somebody else is going to beat you. They've got 18,000 receiving tight ends. They've got Devontae Adams. They've got enough weapons on their offense and their running game with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum back there. They have enough pieces in the offense to where you can't overcommit to one player like you could against the Calvin Johnson-led Lions. I understand, same guy, Matt Stafford. But that's kind of the other piece, is that Matt Stafford knows what it takes. That guy, at age 100, it feels like, is still zipping the ball better than anybody else. And so if it's going to be anybody this next year, I think it's going to be Puka Nacua. So long as he can keep his head straight and his head focused on football, then he's the guy. I don't think it's going to be JSN. I don't think it's going to be Jamar Chase. I don't think you're able to focus too much on these other guys. Now, I understand you've got T. Higgins. You've got the Bengals have a good offense. And so maybe Jamar Chase is the guy. I don't trust anything going on with around Justin Jefferson. I trust him, but nothing going on around him. Nothing with Garrett Wilson trying to have all the best receivers in the league. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. I'm going to offend somebody. I think you just keep coming back to, if it's going to be anybody, it's going to be Puka Nacua.
Yeah, and the reasoning Calvin Johnson gave for saying Puka Nacua is because he's got Matthew Stafford as his quarterback.
Right.
And when you look at the top two guys on the list, they both had Matthew Stafford as their quarterback when they set those records. So it makes sense that he says Puka Nacua. I think the biggest issue people would have with that is that Matthew Stafford is 38 years old and he's not getting any younger and he's coming off the best statistical season of his career. And so can his body hold up? But also, can he continue to play at that high of a level for another season? I still like Puka Nacua's chances to break the record, but I think there's another receiver who could just as easily threaten that record. And I actually disagree. I do think Jackson Smith-Njigba has a chance to break it. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba could really challenge Calvin Johnson's receiving record this year because he's coming off a season with just under 1,800 yards, but it was also just the first season with Sam Darnold as his quarterback. Look at the connection just one offseason produced for Darnold and JSN. They were pretty much unstoppable last year, and their connection is just going to get better. The only thing that I could see that stands in their way is their new offensive coordinator. We just don't know what their offense is going to look like under Brian Fleury. I personally don't think there's going to be much of a difference between what they did last year and what they're going to do this year offensively, but we just don't know until we see it on the field because there is a new offensive coordinator. And as we saw with teams like the Eagles and Lions last year, the offensive coordinator matters a lot to the success of your team. But if Brian Fleury can keep this offense looking pretty similar to how it did last year, I think JSN will have another season similar to or better than last year because his connection with Sam Darnold is going to be better than it was last year.
I just don't like the Seahawks.
I know.
I mean, that's not necessarily true. I do like the Seahawks. And like we've said before, if I didn't grow up in an area where the Seahawks were just blasted everywhere, there's a high possibility I would have become a Seahawks fan. But I just can't. If you're giving me the option between Sam Darnold at 30, 31, whatever he is, or Matt Stafford at 38, I'm taking Stafford. I think every single time. And so I'll take Puka and I'll take Stafford. They seem to have found a good fit last year with the balance between Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, and so I don't think it slows down any. And if Puka has really focused in on football through all that stuff, then here we are, and it's going to be great. Like if he can get focused up and just focus on his job rather than all the outside noise and taking every single supermodel on a date, then I think they're in good shape. Because again, like I said about Brendan Sorsby, this is your job. You have to focus on your job. Just like Joel, just like you and I do when we go to work. This is our job to be here, and this is our livelihood. We have to do our job.
We focus on our jobs?
Well, we focus. Yes.
If my brother-in-law somehow is listening to this, I totally focus on my job all the time.
Yeah, same. I've got a few coworkers who listen, and so I have to say yes.
Fair. All right, Will, do you have anything else to add before we wrap up episode 68?
Man, next one's going to be an upside-down episode, isn't it?
It is. Next week is the episode we've all been waiting for, episode 69.
I never thought we'd get this far, but here we are.
Get ready for an episode full of sexual references, mostly from Will. And to assist us with those sexual references, we'll be joined by Germ from Stuff About Sports. So we might as well just go ahead and apologize to Dwayne now, because it's just going to be one of those episodes.
We have had the absolute pleasure of being on Germ's show. If you have not checked out Stuff About Sports and heard Germ talk about sports, go ahead and you check him out now before he's on our show. Before you hear next episode, go ahead and check his stuff out now and just buckle up, because he's a vibe and a half.
I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a fun one. Not just because it's episode 69, but that's part of it.
No, he's a great
But anyways, as always, don't forget to keep your balls played with. We'll see you next time.
Bye now, y'all. Also, Mark Davis's haircut still sucks.